Welcome to a journey that will not only change the way you see narcissists, but also the way you see yourself, profoundly, powerfully, and perhaps forever. Picture this: a narcissist standing in front of you, smug smile curling on their lips, eyes brimming with arrogance, as if they own the entire world, and an ego so massive it makes you feel like nothing more than a speck of dust in their universe. Now imagine this: you have the power to make all that confidence evaporate, not through a heated argument, not through a dramatic confrontation, but with one simple, quiet yet devastating act. You turn your back and walk away. What truly shakes a narcissist to their core? The one who pretends to be invincible. It's not your yelling, it's not your sharp accusations, it's your absence, your silence, your departure. This isn't just a step away, it's a weapon, a direct hit to the very heart of their existence, the place they are most vulnerable, the place they never want you to see. And the most incredible part, it doesn't just destroy them, it liberates you. It hands you back the power you may have forgotten you even had. In this video, we're going to dive deep into a powerful question: why is walking away the most effective way to defeat a narcissist? This isn't just a short talk or a dry lecture. It's a full, immersive journey where we'll peel back the layers of the narcissist's mind, uncover their defense mechanisms, and expose the fears they work so hard to hide. We'll explore psychological research, real-life behavior analysis, and most importantly, we'll understand why you hold the key to ending their game. Have you ever felt drained trying to deal with a narcissist? Ever wondered if there's a way to break free from their cycle without losing yourself in the process? Maybe you've tried arguing, explaining, proving your worth, only to feel more exhausted, while they stand there, smug and unshaken. If that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. We're not just here to understand who they are or how they operate. We're going further, to the place where you reclaim your freedom, where you rediscover your strength, and where you find the peace you truly deserve. So, get ready for a deep dive. Grab a cup of coffee, maybe a notebook if you want to jot things down, and sit with me. This isn't just a video you casually watch. This is an experience you'll live through, minute by minute, moment by moment. Are you ready to discover the power that's been in your hands all along? Are you ready to understand why your silence can speak louder than any words ever could? If the answer is yes, then let's begin. We'll go slow, we'll go deep, and we won't skip a single detail. Let's start by laying a solid foundation. Who really is the narcissist? On the outside, they appear to be undeniable powerhouses. They walk into a room radiating confidence, their voice commanding attention, their presence screaming that all eyes should be on them. They make you feel small, like you're just a background character in their grand play. But peel back that polished exterior, look deeper, and you'll discover a shocking truth. They're not strong. They're not invincible. They're dependent, desperately dependent, on you, on me, on anyone willing to provide what they need just to survive. Psychologists call this narcissistic supply. It may sound like a complex term, but it's actually quite simple. Otto Kernberg, one of the foremost experts on personality disorders, defined it as a psychological necessity: admiration, attention, and emotional reactions from others. It's not just a preference or a game they enjoy playing, it's their oxygen. It's what keeps their fragile ego from collapsing completely. Think of it like a battery-powered machine. You are the power source. Without you, they stop working, they shut down, they fall apart. But why are they so dependent? To understand that, we need to look at how their sense of self was, or rather, wasn't built. Most of us develop our identity from within. We find meaning through personal experience, through our failures and how we rise from them, through our values, through relationships built on mutual respect and love. That's how we know who we are, even when no one's watching or clapping for us. But for a narcissist, that process never happens. Their identity isn't real, it's a painting made of compliments, arguments, and even other people's pain. Without those things, they don't know who they are. Imagine living a life where your value only exists when someone else says you matter, when someone pays attention to you, when someone reacts to you. Have you ever met someone who constantly needs others just to feel like they exist? That's a narcissist. One compliment makes them soar, like a hit of a drug. One angry glance gives them a rush of power, like a tiny victory in their twisted game. But take away those reactions, and what's left? Nothing. Just a void they've never learned how to face. Research backs this up clearly. Jean Twenge and Keith Campbell, in their 2009 book, The Narcissism Epidemic, found that when narcissists are cut off from external validation, when no one's clapping, no one's arguing, no one's reflecting their image back to them, they often spiral into anxiety, depression, even panic. Their psychological structure starts to crack because it was never built to stand on its own. They have no inner foundation to lean on. Everything they are comes from the outside, from you, from me, from anyone willing to play their game. And here's the key point. When you walk away, you're not just leaving them physically, you're pulling the plug on their lifeline. You remove the power source that keeps their machine running. They're no longer the center of the universe because their universe, built entirely on your attention, has vanished. What happens when a narcissist is left alone? They can't create meaning by themselves. They can't self-soothe. They can't look in the mirror and say, "I'm okay," without someone else standing behind them, nodding in agreement. Take a moment and think about this. Have you ever seen a narcissist panic when they're no longer the center of attention? Maybe it was a friend, a family member, or an ex. They start acting strangely, trying to pull you back in with every trick they know. That's not random. That desperation is the reason they'll do anything to keep you from leaving, from fake sweetness to cold threats. They don't want you. They need you. They need you to mask the truth, that deep down they're hollow in ways they can't bear to face. But here's the beautiful truth. Once you understand that dependency, you begin to see that the power was never in their hands. They may look powerful, but it's all an act. The real power lies in you, and it begins the moment you decide to walk away. We'll explore that even deeper in a moment. But first, let's take a look at why all the other approaches tend to fail. Now that we understand how a narcissist depends on you, let's ask a question you've probably thought about. Why not confront them? If they are so weak without their supply, if they need you to survive, then why not stand up, criticize them, expose the truth, and force them to face themselves? That's what most of us want to do when we've been hurt, manipulated, or disrespected. You want to shout so they'll hear you. You want them to admit their mistakes. You want justice. And that's completely understandable. But here's the harsh truth you need to hear. Confrontation is not the answer. It's a trap designed to keep you stuck. And I'll explain why. Imagine you're standing in front of a narcissist. You've had enough. The lies, the manipulation, the times they made you feel worthless. You take a deep breath and begin. You list every wrong thing they've done, how they twisted your words, how they blamed you for their own mistakes, how they turned everything into a game you could never win. You think the truth will make them bow their head, that your logic will silence them. But what happens? They don't apologize. They don't reflect. Instead, they push back with a smug smile. They twist the story, make you out to be the bad guy, or even pretend to be the victim to make you feel guilty. The more you speak, the stronger they seem. Why? Because every emotional reaction you give, whether it's explosive anger, choked up sadness, or deep frustration, is fuel for them. It doesn't weaken them, it strengthens them. Psychologist Roy Baumeister studied this in his 1996 work on self-regulation. He discovered that narcissists have an astonishing ability. They turn negative attention into proof of their power. When you argue with them, when you cry, when you try to prove something, all of it tells them that they still matter, that they still have the power to make you feel that way. In their mind, the more intense your reaction, the bigger their victory. You're angry, they think, good, I still have control over her. You cry, they think, perfect, I'm still the center of his world. Let's go a little deeper. When you confront them, you're not only giving them fuel, you're stepping onto their playing field. They are masters at manipulating the narrative. They twist the truth faster than you can speak it. They shift the blame back to you with such confidence that you start to question whether you really were wrong. They drag out the conflict not to resolve it, but to keep you entangled. You think you're fighting for yourself, but in reality, you're playing by their script. A script they wrote in advance, where they always come out on top. Have you ever tried arguing with a narcissist and felt completely drained afterward? You started with a clear intention, but by the end you're not even sure what you were fighting for anymore. That's no coincidence. Another study by Baumeister showed that narcissists often prolong conflicts not to seek truth, but to maintain attention. For them, the fight itself is a win, because it proves you're still caught in their world. The longer you stay, the more power you give them. So what happens when you keep confronting them? You get exhausted, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You start to doubt yourself. Am I just being too sensitive? Did I misunderstand something? Meanwhile, they stand there more smug than ever because you just poured fuel on their fire. Confronting a narcissist is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The harder you try, the more it flares up. And while you're burning out, they feel more alive than ever. But stop for a second and ask yourself, is it worth it? Do you really want to keep pouring your energy into a machine that never stops demanding more? Do you want to keep fighting in a battle you can never win? Not because you're weak, but because they've rigged the game from the start. If your answer is no, then there's another path, a path that doesn't require you to shout, doesn't require you to prove anything, and yet it can still bring them to their knees. The answer isn't about being louder or bigger or fighting harder. It lies in a strategy they never see coming, a strategy that's simple but devastating. Your silence, your absence. And now we're going to go deeper into that, and I promise you, this is where things start to get really interesting. We've seen that confrontation is a path to defeat, a trap that leaves you drained while the narcissist only grows stronger. But if confrontation doesn't work, then what does? This is where we get to the heart of the matter. Why is walking away the ultimate blow to a narcissist? The answer lies in a psychological concept called narcissistic injury. And trust me, nothing delivers that injury more effectively than you turning your back and walking away. Let's start with this concept. Heinz Kohut, a renowned psychoanalyst, defined narcissistic injury as the psychological shock that occurs when the narcissist's false self is threatened. They build an image of themselves strong, superior, untouchable. But that image isn't real. It only exists when others reflect it back to them. When you're there, whether arguing or admiring, you're the mirror reflecting the image they want to see. But when you walk away, that mirror shatters, and what's left is a truth they simply cannot bear. Think about it. When you confront them, you give them something to push against, a narrative to twist, an emotion to manipulate, an opportunity to turn the tables. They can weaponize your words, use your tears as proof of their power. But when you walk away, you leave nothing behind. Your silence is a steel wall they cannot penetrate. Your absence is a void they cannot fill. It cannot be twisted, manipulated, or turned into anything else. It is a clear, undeniable message. You no longer matter to me. W. Keith Campbell's 1999 research illuminated this truth powerfully. He discovered that narcissists respond more intensely to being ignored than to being criticized. When you stop reacting, no more anger, no more pleading, no more signs that they matter, they lose their ability to maintain the illusion of power. They need you to feel in control, to feel significant. But when you withdraw, you strip all of that away and they're left with nothing. No one to admire them, no one to argue with them, no one to reflect back the image they depend on to feel real. Let's go deeper. What makes this silence so devastating? It forces them to face their greatest fear, powerlessness and meaninglessness. When you're still there, they can use you as a tool to mask their emptiness. A compliment is a small victory, a dose of comfort for their insecurity. An argument is proof of their strength, a way to convince themselves they're still in control. But when you walk away, all of those tools disappear. They're left with a truth they've spent their entire lives avoiding. They are not the center of everything. They are not as powerful as they believe. They are merely a dim shadow when no one is there to shine light on them. But don't think this is just theory on paper. Look around you in real life. Have you ever seen a narcissist panic when they're ignored? Maybe it's a friend who floods your phone with texts when you stop replying, or an ex who suddenly reappears just to remind you they still exist. Why do they do that? Because your absence isn't just a rejection, it's an existential threat to them. It's proof that they don't control you, and if they don't control you, then who are they really? And this is what makes walking away so powerful. It gives them no chance to fight back. When you argue, they can deny, manipulate, or shift blame. But when you leave without saying a word, they have nothing to hold on to. They can't distort silence. They can't twist absence into a story that favors them. It bypasses every one of their defenses, the arrogance, the manipulation, the grandiosity, and cuts straight into their deepest vulnerability, the fear of being forgotten. Pause and reflect on the power of this. Have you ever felt helpless in front of a narcissist? Have you ever thought there was no way to escape them? The truth is, there is, and it doesn't require you to fight or prove anything. It only requires you to walk away. Your absence doesn't just bruise their ego, it shatters the entire illusion they built to survive. And when you truly understand that, you begin to see that you are not the victim in this story. You are the one holding the power. Now that we understand why walking away is a fatal blow to the narcissist, let's go deeper into the core of their collapse, not through vague emotions or soft guesses, but through the cold, sharp, undeniable lens of science. When you walk away, you don't just annoy or confuse them, you trigger a brutal psychological chain reaction, a complete breakdown of the false self they built to hide an uncomfortable truth. They are nothing without you. This isn't a sentimental story. It's a psychological dissection. We're about to dissect every fragment of their weakness, every shattered defense mechanism, every fear laid bare. Get ready, because this part will hit hard, with no mercy, and it will show you the real power of your absence. When you walk away, you don't just take your attention or your time. You rip away the curtain that hides their fragile ego. Imagine a narcissist as a towering structure built from praise, arguments, and the emotional reactions they pull out of you. But the foundation of that tower isn't stone, it's sand. And you are the only thing holding that sand in place. When you step back, the entire structure begins to shake, then collapses into rubble. This isn't a gentle decline, it's a full-on demolition. And science has proven this not once, but through countless undeniable studies. Let's begin with their first response, rage. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, described a phenomenon called narcissistic rage, an explosive reaction that occurs when the narcissistic ego is severely threatened. When you walk away, you're not just rejecting them, you're striking directly at the heart of their illusion of power. And how do they react? They yell, they threaten, they try to hurt you any way they can. Vicious words, petty revenge, personal attacks. Have you ever seen a narcissist lose their composure just because you didn't answer a message? That's not ordinary anger. It's the scream of a shattered ego, a person desperately trying to hold on to the last shred of control. But don't be fooled by the aggressiveness. Their rage isn't a sign of strength. It's proof of their weakness. Research by Brad Bushman and Roy Baumeister, 1998, proved this through rigorous experiments. They found that people with high narcissistic traits become significantly more aggressive when ignored than when directly criticized. Why? Because criticism, even negative, is still attention. It still tells them they matter. But being ignored, that's a deadly void they can't fill. It's a direct strike to the core of their existence. Let's dig even deeper. Why is being ignored so devastating? Because it forces them to face a truth they've spent their entire lives running from. They have no true identity. As long as you're around, admiring or arguing, they can use you as a shield to hide their emptiness. A compliment is a dose of comfort. An argument is a way to convince themselves they're still in control. But when you walk away, that shield disappears. They're left alone, with no one to reflect the image they want to see, no one to validate their existence. Jean Twenge and Keith Campbell, in The Narcissism Epidemic, 2009, painted an even clearer picture of this collapse. They found that when narcissists are cut off from their supply, when no one's clapping, no one's arguing, no one's feeding their ego, they often fall into acute anxiety, deep depression, or even self-destructive behavior. Their psychological structure simply wasn't built to stand on its own. They have no internal foundation to rely on. Everything they have comes from external validation. When you withdraw, they don't just lose you, they lose the entire illusion of self they've built their survival on. Let's look at this in even more detail. When you walk away, you trigger a domino effect inside their mind. First comes panic. They realize their supply is gone, and they don't know how to replace it. Have you ever seen a narcissist try to re-establish contact after being abandoned? They flood your phone with messages, call non-stop, or even show up at your door with promises of change. Why do they do this? Because they can't tolerate your silence. Your absence is an existential threat, proof that they no longer control you. And if they don't control you, then who are they? But here's where things get brutal. Those efforts aren't signs of strength or persistence. They are cries for help from someone drowning. They don't reach out because they care about you. They reach out because they need you to survive. They need you to hide the truth that inside them is a dark void, a bottomless pit of self-doubt they can't bear to face. When you walk away, you force them to confront that pit, and they have no tools to deal with it. They don't know how to self-soothe. They don't know how to create meaning for themselves. They only know how to depend on others, and when those others are gone, they collapse. Let's look at another layer, their desperation. Rage might be their first reaction, but it doesn't last forever. When they realize you're not coming back, when your silence becomes permanent, they often shift tactics, begging. They may cry, they may play the victim, they may promise to change, saying things so sweet and convincing you almost believe them. But don't be fooled, this is not sincerity. This is the final manipulation, a desperate attempt to pull you back into their game. They don't want you for who you are, they want you for what you give them. A mirror to reflect their illusion, a supply to feed their dying ego. Bushman and Baumeister also found that when aggression fails, narcissists often shift to more subtle manipulation, fake charm, self-pity, seductive tactics. But here's what they'll never admit. None of those tactics work if you don't react. Your silence is a wall they cannot climb, a void they cannot fill, a truth they cannot twist. And when they run out of strategies, when there's nothing left to hold on to, the real collapse begins. Picture this. The once arrogant narcissist now sits alone, staring at a phone that no longer lights up, muttering to themselves to preserve the last thread of self-worth. They are no longer the ruler, they are a hollow shell, a broken figure who cannot bear the truth that they've been abandoned. This is not a pitiful image. It is the inevitable consequence of their pathological dependence. They built their entire identity on the backs of others, and when others walk away, there is nothing left for them to stand on. But don't stop there. Look at the long-term consequences. Twenge and Campbell's research showed that when narcissistic supply is cut off for a prolonged period, the narcissist can fall into deep depression or even self-harming behaviors. They don't just lose you, they lose their ability to uphold the illusion of superiority. They can't look in the mirror and say, "I'm strong," without someone behind them nodding in agreement. And when that illusion shatters, what's left is someone weak, vulnerable, and completely powerless, the very person they've tried to hide all their life. So why is this so devastating? Because it reveals the truth they never wanted to admit. They're not the one in control. You are. They're not strong. They're far weaker than you ever imagined. They're not the center of the universe. They are just a fading shadow without anyone to shine light on them. When you walk away, you don't just destroy their ego. You destroy the entire world they built to survive, and they can do nothing to stop it. But here's the most important part. Their collapse is not your burden. They may scream, they may beg, they may do anything to pull you back, but that's their choice, not yours. You are not responsible for fixing them, and you never were. When you walk away, you don't just leave behind their ruins, you open a door for yourself, a door to freedom, power, and a life unchained from their destruction. We'll explore that in the next section, but remember this: their collapse is the ultimate proof of your strength. We've talked a lot about how walking away destroys the narcissist, but now let's shift the focus back to you, because this isn't just a story about their collapse, it's a story about your rise. It's about reclaiming everything they tried to take from you, your autonomy, your worth, and your true power. This is the most important part of this journey because it's not just about escaping them, it's about rediscovering yourself. Let's start by looking at what happens when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. They pull you into a constant spiral of manipulation. They twist your words, they make you question your own perception, they make you feel like you're never enough. You start to ask yourself, am I just being too sensitive? Did I misunderstand something? Do I even deserve anything better? That's not an accident. That's how they keep you tethered. It's how they make you dependent on them to define who you are. But when you walk away, everything changes. You break that cycle. You reclaim your ability to trust yourself, your instincts, your emotions, your truth. According to self-determination theory by Edward Desai and Richard Ryan, 2000, reclaiming control over your life is key to restoring your self-esteem and mental well-being. When you leave the narcissist, you're not just escaping them, you're escaping the psychological prison they built around you. Think about it. When you were still there, you were their supply, but they were also trying to shape you into a smaller version of yourself. They needed your reactions, your attention, your presence to keep their illusion alive. But you never needed them. You never needed them to be whole. When you walk away, you send a powerful message, not just to them, but to yourself. I am enough, and I choose myself. And that's where your true power begins. That power isn't about controlling others like narcissists believe. It's about owning your life, defining your own meaning, and living in a way that honors who you really are. When you do that, you become untouchable. They can't pull you back because you no longer need their approval. You no longer need them to feel worthy. You've found that worth within yourself, and no one, not even the most manipulative narcissist, can take that away from you. Imagine a life no longer controlled by someone else's ego. Imagine waking up every day knowing you decide your reality, not them. That's the real reward of walking away, not just freedom from them, but freedom to be yourself, and to rebuild yourself and to live a life you're proud of. Have you ever believed you could do that? You can, and you will. But don't think this is easy. Walking away takes courage. Courage to let go of the hope that they'll change. Courage to sit with your own silence. Courage to believe you deserve better. But when you do it, you'll realize the power you reclaim isn't just temporary. It's eternal. It becomes the foundation of a new life. A life where you are the one in control. We've walked together through an unflinching journey, peeling back every layer of the narcissist to reveal the raw truth underneath. And this is the core message I want you to carry with you as you leave this video. Walking away is not just an action, it's a fatal blow that strips them of the one thing they could never create on their own: meaning. It shatters the illusion of their power and forces them to confront the emptiness they've been running from their entire lives. But that's not all. More importantly, it gives back to you something they could never truly take: your freedom, your power, and your right to live a life untouched by their brokenness. Backed by cold science and sharp logic, nothing is more effective than your absence in dismantling a narcissist's false sense of self. Confrontation might leave you drained, lost in their chaos, but walking away, it leaves them powerless, exposed not as the dominant force they pretend to be, but as dependent, fragile, and panicked when there's no one left to lean on. In their collapse, you find your strength. The strength to shape your own life, to believe in your own worth, to stand firm without needing anyone else's validation. This isn't just a victory over them, it's a declaration of self, a bold affirmation that you are the one in control of your destiny. If you're currently caught in the whirlwind of a narcissist's world, let this video be the fire that lights your path forward. You don't need to keep fighting their senseless battles. You don't need to explain yourself one more time to prove your value. And you absolutely don't need to sacrifice your well-being to feed their broken ego. All you need to do is walk away, decisively, unapologetically, and without looking back. When you do that, you'll discover a powerful truth. Your life was never theirs to control. It is yours, and it always has been. Subscribe to this channel if you want to continue this journey of uncovering psychology, personal power, and reclaiming your life on your terms. Share your story in the comments. I want to hear about the steps you've taken, the barriers you've overcome, or even the fears you're still facing. Every story is a spark, not just for you, but for everyone searching for a way out. And above all, take action today. You deserve freedom. You deserve a life where you are the author, not a background character in someone else's drama. Thank you for staying with me until this very moment. This is not the end, it's the beginning of a new chapter for you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, stand tall, take a deep breath, and step boldly into the life you choose. You're not just ready for this, you were born for it.